welcome back. My name is Arun Pachehra, and I'm a solutions architect with one of the best organization to work with, now in tech. I'm also MCT, and in today's video, we are going to explore Azure Well Architected Framework cost optimization. If you guys are following this channel, you know we have already covered a lot of relevant videos relevant to Azure Web for well-architected framework. But recently, there has so many changes by Microsoft on this MS Learn documentation of well-architected framework. Hence, we need to recreate the entire stuff so that we can include all the updates. We will start with the overview, of course, and then we'll dive deep into cost optimization. So, what is Azure Well Architected Framework? Well, it's a set of guidelines. It's a set of guiding principles which are designed to help cloud architects to do what? Well, in order to prepare a secure, high performing, resilient, and efficient infrastructure for their applications and workloads on cloud. This framework is not just Azure specific, but cloud agnostic. I might be using Azure related terminology or examples, but you could utilize this for any cloud architecture. So it consists of five key pillars. Five key pillars of what? Of well architected framework. These are the guiding principles. You go one by one and you will come to know whether your architecture is well architected framework aligned or not. So let's have a brief overview. The very first is cost optimization. Well, the goal for this principle is to achieve the lowest price point while meeting business requirements. We have already talked about uh, a lot, to be honest, on business requirement, because whatever you are doing, whatever the IT department is doing, or whatever digital transformation you are after is all because someone is running a business. And why someone runs the business, if you go to the bottom of it, it's the profit, it's the money, right? So cost is something that we are after with. We do not want to spend that much that it overruns the profit. But we also do not want to decrease the cost for the resource utilization that you are not able to run your business. It's a balance, right? So we can take an example of implementing auto scaling for Azure VMs, uh, which ensures that we do not pay for the VMs for the at the time when the traffic is low. The VMs will definitely going scale in and out, or maybe using reserved instance for predictable workloads can also reduce cost and not compromising the performance. All right, so that's the cost, operational excellence, and the goal of operational excellence is to ensure operational processes that keep a system running in production. Operational processes, we need to think uh, with the mindset, whatever architecture you're preparing, that it is well operated, that directly connected to the automation or DevOps practices. For example, automating routine tasks with Azure Automation, or using Azure Monitor and Azure Alerts for proactive issue detection and resolution. Because nobody wants their customer to report an issue. We want to detect it first and fix it before a lot of customers hampered, right? Then performance efficiency, to ensure systems are efficient and can scale to meet changes in demand. We Nobody wants the less performant individual or system or things like that. Everybody wants more performant or performance efficient system. For example, using Azure Content Delivery Network or CDN to cache content closer to users and reduce latency. Right? So this is your architecture should be performant efficient. Reliability is all about BCDR, to ensure a system is reliable and can recover from failures while meeting business and customer need. We don't want a application, a mission critical application, which is like well performed and it's amazingly well and the users are happy, but it's not reliable. If something happens, it's not coming back. We want it should be reliable because it is mission critical. Now, if all these guiding principles are in place and you're not thinking about security, then you're missing a very big piece of well architected framework, because you don't want your company, your organization named in the newspaper early in the morning, right? Because somebody hacked into it, it was vulnerable, the user's data was leaked, or credit cards were leaked. So you need to plan security from the ground. And let's take an example of implementing NSGs or firewalls to control inbound and outbound traffic to your network, using Azure Key Vault for managing secrets and encryption keys securely. There are so many things like that we'll cover when we will be diving deep into security. But it was just an overview because we're starting this again. That's why I want to touch it. But this video is specifically for cost. We are going to dive deep, dig into cost optimization, and then we'll start reliability or any other guiding principle in our next video. This one is all about cost. So let's see what is cost optimization. Well, cost optimization, as the name says, whatever cost you're implying, you should optimize it. It does not mean buy the cheapest stuff, right? Or because cheap is not always the right option. So does the expensive, because expensive is not always good. Hence, we need to understand the basic principles behind cost and, of course, optimization. What is the right approach and all in this video. The very first thing to understand is designing the architecture of any project should always align with your, if you're guessing business objective, then you are with me and you're going to learn a lot because you understand the main point of things we are learning here. So your cost optimization or all the steps, anything, it should be aligned with your business objectives. Keeping in mind the budget and the expected return on investment, ROI, are aligned in such a way that ultimately when there is a trade-off, you know where to spend money because outcome is more than the investment. Oh, we started talking business now. That's fine. Let's try to understand the point by let's take an example of budget versus goal. You got to ask yourself if the budget you have is enough to achieve your goals, right? For example, if your goal is to launch a high traffic online store, you got to ensure the budget can cover robust hosting and e-commerce, right? So you got to have the budget as per your goals, right? Maybe you have a goal which require X amount and you only have X minus something, it won't work. So first you should have the proper planning of your objectives, the business requirement. What are you trying to achieve by this architecture or this workload? And what is the plan? And then what is the investment? And accordingly, you got to plan things. You just do not go ahead and start creating resources in Azure. There is a proper planning involved, budget versus goals. You need to understand this point first and look for ways to get the most out of what you are spending. That's the business, right? This could mean using your servers more efficiently or finding ways to cut costs without sacrificing quality. Because if you are sacrificing quality, you are not optimizing cost, you're rather ruining the business. For instance, using auto scaling in Azure can ensure you're not paying for unused resources. That is the optimization of the cost. You're using automation, applying policy in such a way that you're only running the resource or the which is in use, optimum use. You got to remember going for the cheapest option isn't always the best. While you might save money in the short term, it could lead to higher cost later. Let's take a wonderful example. Choosing a cheaper, less reliable hosting service might have you gotta save some money there initially, but could lead to more downtime and lost customer later. Right? You could think of n number of things. For example, it's a mission critical application. You promise the SLAs, but you're running a single VM. Or maybe you're running two VMs in availability set. Rather, you should run in availability zone or different regions to achieve higher availability SLA through Microsoft so that you can promise with your customer. If you're not achieving that, you gotta pay penalties. Or the compliance related scenarios, right? You are not utilizing the security services just to save money, but that makes your environment non-compliant for compliance like PSS or HIPAA or GDPR, things like that. I'm saying these things just an example to make a point. I hope you understand that. Now we got to develop a long-term strategy that includes setting priorities, regularly checking your spending because it's not a one-time thing, and using established process to keep optimizing cost. You got to regular review your cloud services bills might reveal services you're no longer using that can be cut. While aligning business needs with technological capabilities, be prepared to make trade-offs. For example, you might choose a more expensive, secure cloud storage option to protect sensitive customer data, considering the long-term benefits over the initial cost, aligning with the compliance maybe. You're selling some product on that workload which has this prereq that should be compliant, and that compliant needs those secure security or secure cloud storage options, things like that. So you should have the holistic idea about the organization or the particular business unit or workload that you are aligned with. You need to understand the business objectives, the future plan, and it's not a one-time thing. So in summary, effective architecture design balances cost with business needs, always keeping an eye on long-term value rather than just short-term savings. Okay, so I hope I have gave you enough points to start the conversation with your customer wherever you have this kind of discussion. I bet you will have so many, because whosoever is coming to the cloud, either he comes because he wants to save the cost, or when he start Running its workload on the cloud, he wants to save the cost, right? So I hope you are with me, and it was a wonderful discussion till now. So let's try to understand how to achieve all that, what all we have, so that we can align our vision, our mindset, our thoughts with the cost optimization and things that we have discussed as of now to achieve that. So to do that, Microsoft gave us certain principles. You need to keep those principles in mind whenever you are applying cost or having conversation with the customer on cost optimization. So these are the design principles for the cost. The very first is cost efficient mindset, cost management discipline for usage optimization and rate optimization, monitor and optimize. So you should have these principles in your mind going on when you are planning for the optimization of cost. Let's try to dig deeper on each of these principles. What could be the goal of that principle? How we can approach it? And let's take an example to understand each one of these. Though these themselves reveals as the design with a cost efficiency mindset, it simply says, hey, that's who I am. But just to be clear on the same side, let's make a point. What could be the goal of this? Well, it simply ensure that every architectural decision is made with cost efficiency in mind, not cheapest resource, not expensive resource, but the cost efficiency in mind, maximum output. So what could be the benefit or approach for cost efficiency mindset? Well, let's say evaluating the cost implication of each design choice, such as selecting the right service and resources, helps maintain a balance between the functionality and expense. This mindset avoids over engineering and unnecessary expenditures. You want to make it simple. We don't want to over engineer anything. We don't want to create unnecessary resources. Why? Because we have that mindset. If things can happen with a simple approach, we don't want to make it complicated, because in Azure or any cloud, there is a cost involved with the movement of data. There is a cost involved with the creation of resources, or rather you could say there's a cost involved whatever you do in the cloud. So you need to be vigilant. You should have a cost efficient mindset so you can approach in a right way. Let's take an example to make a point. Let's suppose there is a retail company, an online retail company, which is developing an inventory management system or any system. But initially, they consider using AKS or Azure Kubernetes Service for its obvious reasons like scalability and other advanced features. However, after evaluating with cost efficiency mindset, they realize their actual requirements and usage patterns. They realize that a simpler Azure App Service can meet their needs at a much lower cost. And there are other things involved as well. For example, you need not to wait to build your application or re-architect your application as per the uh, microservice architecture. You need not to wait for to hire the skilled people on Kubernetes. By choosing Azure App Services, they effectively meet their operational requirements while significantly reducing their cloud expenditure. You need not to even uh, maintain the infrastructure. It's app service, it's a PaaS service, right? So ultimately, it's meeting the business requirement and saving a cost. Cost efficient mindset Everybody is running everything on AKS. Maybe it's not required. You need to think as per the business requirement. So in this example, the retail company demonstrates what they demonstrate. They demonstrate a cost efficiency mindset by opting for a service that meets their needs adequately without incurring the higher cost associated with a complex solution. This approach ensures that they achieve the necessary functionality without overspending on unnecessary capabilities. That means avoiding over engineering and unnecessary expenditure. That's all it means. What it means, just be with me, rephrase it. It simply means avoid over engineering and unnecessary expenditure, understand the business requirement, and opt for the right choice, which meets all the needs of the business. Do not stuck or have the complex solution or fancy solution just to say in the crowd or in the meetings. Right. Now, we understand that. Now, what is the discipline then? It seems like a little different, but what it is? Well, it simply means, if you take an example, discipline means where think of school or maybe army or defense, how they make you discipline. Everybody wakes up early in the morning, they do their workouts and things like that. Like everybody is doing those things which actually makes you stronger, aware, right? Discipline. What discipline are we looking for here? We're looking for cost management discipline. It simply means establish a culture where budget awareness and cost control are integral to operations. Everybody is aware how cost or pricing works in the cloud. Everybody. They're not just creating things because they can, right? Maybe people just thinking it's a lab, let's create it and forget about it. No, they should be aware. Maybe you do have the tools in place or scripts running in place which deletes unnecessary resources once in 48 hours or 64 hours or in a week, because you also don't want to hamper the work. But it's running for 6 days. If the work was for 45 minutes or 30 minutes, it's still running for 6 days. I hope you understand what point I'm trying to make here. So we need to establish a culture where budget awareness and cost control are integral part of operations. How can we approach this? Well, the same way army does or defense does for their soldiers, by training them, by training teams on cost management, instilling a sense of financial responsibility. Organization can make more informed spending decisions, implementing tools for tracking and reporting expenses, alerting these, or maybe accountability. You assign the owners and the people who supposed to be the accountable for those subscriptions or those accounts. Let's take an example for this. I don't think we need any. It's pretty clear. But just to cement the knowledge, let's take an example of an educational technology company that implements a policy where its product teams are required to conduct a cost benefit analysis for each new cloud service they plan to use. Seems a bit harsh, but it's an educational technology, not an innovation one. So they can do that. They can do those analysis. This includes estimating the expected usage, comparing alternative services, and projecting the cost over time. Here, they are doing this practice not in the lab development, but for the resources which are going to run 24/7. So do not get confused. right? So the teams use Azure Cost Management to monitor their actual spending against these projections. This practice leads to more informed decisions about which service to use, helps avoid unnecessary expenditures, and ensure that each cloud service used directly contributes to the company's educational goals. So, in this scenario, the education tech company approach to instilling a cost management discipline ensures that every cloud resource and service used is justified in terms of its value to the business, leading to more efficient and effective cloud usage. That's the cost management discipline. And we should have these things in all the enterprises or SMBs where they have so many resources going on, so many subscriptions going on. They should have this pre-planned before it is operational, because cloud requires a totally different mindset. Otherwise, once you start getting your bill exponentially increase every month, and why go that loss if you can plan it correctly, right? Similarly, for building house building house uh, in near ocean or in desert or in mountains, there are different approaches, right? Even for the road. So what point I'm trying to make, running a VM in on premises or private cloud or public cloud is not just running a VM. If it is a public cloud, the approach changes, and cost is one of the most important thing that you need to keep in the well architected framework, because you are going to create the design which is going to utilize resources, and data is going to move in and out, which means cost. Let's talk the optimization then. What optimization? Usage optimization. What are we using? Resources. So the goal is maximize resource utilization to align with actual usage patterns. Well, how can you do that? Well, adjusting resource allocation based on the usage data ensures that you are not paying for idle resources. A simple approach. Or you could, let's make it little advanced, include scaling resources to match demand and using services that offer the best value for your usage patterns. To understand that, though it's quite clear, whatever resource you are going to use, whatever service you are going to use, you need to optimize it. Let's take an example of a media streaming company which experiences variable viewer traffic. We all understand that if there is a news series or there is some kind of news, uh, suddenly the traffic rises. For example, Reacher season 2 came, and right now the traffic would be a little higher on the Prime, or any new movie released on these platforms, traffic spikes. To manage this, let's suppose they're running everything on VM. So implement Azure scale sets for their streaming servers. Uh, this setup automatically scales out to handle high traffic during peak viewing times, such as new episode release. Again, I gave you the example. I'm not saying they're running on VMSs, but I'm trying to make a point so that you can relate it, understand it. VMSS gives you the scaling option, scaling out, and scaling in elasticity, and which is what we are optimizing our usage of resources. That's what it is. Because in this use case, the media streaming company leverages scalability feature of cloud, and particularly the service VMSs. This ensures that they have enough capacity to handle high demand without overspending on resources during quieter periods. Right? So that's the usage optimization. Now you must be wondering, what is rate optimization? Well, this is the usage of the resource, and here the selection of the resource, because you got to pay for the resource, right? So you get to select the right one. So take advantage of the best pricing options available for your needs. Once you select the resource, then the usage optimization with the different features that service provides. So selecting pricing plans and resource types that offer the most cost-effective rates for your expected usage, such as using reserved instance for stable or predictable workloads, right? Well, let's take an example of XYZ company or a global marketing agency, which is running several large-scale, long-term digital advertising campaigns. To support these campaigns, they require consistent, high-performance computing power. After assessing their workload patterns, they choose Azure RIs for their campaign to do what? To do data processing. This decision is based on their stable and predictable computational needs over the course of the campaign. By committing to Azure RI for 1 or 3 year term, they achieve substantial cost savings up to 72% compared to pay as you go, while ensuring they have the necessary compute resource available at all times. So choosing RI doesn't only give you the cost benefit, but also because you're reserving your compute, so you have that assurance of availability of those resources. So in this use case, the marketing agency optimizes its cloud spending by aligning its resources to reserved instances. So that's a rate optimization. Now, these are the design principle of design, cost management, and everything. But you got to monitor it so that you can keep on optimizing everything. So, continuously adjust and refine resource utilization, and cost is the key word, continuously. It's not like today you have optimized everything and you are good to go. No, this is an ongoing process. This is something that you gotta do until you're running your workloads in the cloud. Keep on doing it, right? Because you never know who is creating what and which resource is going where, the usage, things like that. So regular monitoring and reviewing of resource usage and spending patterns allow for ongoing optimization. This includes identifying underutilized resources, adjusting capacity, and staying updated with new Azure features and pricing models. Yes, you need to stay updated yourself because you never know the new service which is coming is how cost efficient and how advanced in technology is, and you would like to use that. And sometimes cloud provider also give you the features to simply migrate from one to another without maybe downtime, or there is multiple ways to utilize the next best Azure service. Let's take a use case to understand it, though it makes sense already, but that's the pattern I followed. So let's take an example of a digital marketing agency, which uses Azure for hosting various client websites and campaigns. They implement a routine process where every quarter they use Azure Cost Management and Azure Advisor to review their cloud service usage. In one of those reviews, they identify several older marketing campaign sites that are still running on higher spec VMs despite low traffic. The agency then consolidates these sites onto fewer, smaller VMs and utilizes CDN to maintain site performance. This strategic consolidation results in significant cost savings while maintaining the desired performance and availability for client sites. That's the magic of insights. That's the magic if you're monitoring your stuff. That's the magic if it is on it continuously ongoing. All right, so these are the design principle of the cost. Got to have the right mindset. Got to have the discipline, because you're not the only one. The entire team, the everyone who is using cloud, he should be aware of this usage rate. Got to monitor it so that you can keep on optimizing. These are the design principles for cost optimization. And now it's time to trade-offs. Why trade-off? Because if you were with me, they are like 5 pillars and all are as important as any of other. So what you gotta do? It's not half-half. You gotta trade off. And how we trade off? If you're listening to me or following the channel, you already know, because I use that keyword all the time. How we trade off as per the business requirement. All right, so let's understand it a little better. So cost optimization, trading off with reliability, means balancing cost savings with maintaining system reliability, right? So let's take an example to understand it. Choosing a less expensive Azure service or resource might save cost initially. It will for sure, but can compromise reliability. I gave you the example of running single VM or maybe running two VM inside a set, availability set. You can enhance the availability by running these VM in the zone or running in between the regions. Same goes with the storage account or the backups, running LRS, locally redundant, or GRS, geo redundant. So opting for cheaper standard storage instead of premium storage might be a good example. It might reduce cost, but can lead to higher latency and lower redundancy, affecting the reliability of critical applications. A company running high transaction financial application must weigh the cost savings against the potential risk of downtime or data loss. So you understand that? Business requirement. The money you are spending on the resources to run a workload and the money you are earning for that workload, those things will help you to understand whether you have to spend that much money to run that workload, whether you need those advanced features, those advanced security features, those premium storage, those advanced technologies, or it can easily be done with the simple resources because output is such. Ultimately is the business requirement and the requirement of the workloads. Now let's trade off with the security. Ensure cost saving measures do not compromise security standards, because security is also as important as any other pillar in the well architected framework. Well, let's take an example to make a point. Reducing cost by eliminating the use of advanced security features or services in Azure could expose the system to higher security risks. For example, a healthcare organization looking to cut cost might consider foregoing some advanced security center features. However, this decision might leave sensitive patient data more vulnerable to breaches, risking compliance with regulations like HIPAA. The cost saving must be weighed against the potential cost of data breaches and non-compliant penalties. See, now here again, the business requirement and the workload requirement. So sometimes you have to spend money, because if you are not spending money, the penalty is higher than the money you're spending to utilize that particular feature. So the trade-off is better utilize the resource. Now, with operational excellence, it's a balance between reducing cost and maintaining high operational standards, like implementing cost-saving measures like reducing the frequency of backups or using less comprehensive monitoring tools can impact the ability to quickly respond to operational issues because there is a delay. right? But a retail business might decide to scale down its Azure Monitor and Log Analytics to save cost. While this reduces expenses, it might also lead to delayed the response time in addressing website performance issues. So it's again a trade-off. Is this the website that can bear uh, this kind of pain of the customer, or no, it's highly competitive website. You cannot compromise your performance, your reliability, your excellence, operations excellence. Doesn't matter the cost because we are earning money from this website. We have to be in the competition. So you have to choose that. So what's left is the performance efficiency. We got to optimize cost without significantly impacting the performance of applications and services. Well, using lower cost resources or reducing resource allocation to save money can affect application performance. An online streaming service might choose a lower performance compute tier in Azure to cut cost. While this decision reduces cloud expenses, it could result in longer buffering times and lower video quality for end users, leading to user dissatisfaction and potential loss of subscribers. In each of these examples that we talked about, these all are the examples that I could think of. Try to understand these trade offs. The key is finding the right balance. While cost optimization is important, it's crucial to consider how these cost saving measures might impact other aspects of your cloud environment, such as other principles. The goal is to achieve an optimal balance that aligns with your organization's priority, your business requirement, and the requirement of your workloads, overall business strategy. So, what can we do that? To align ourselves with this these principles, these trade-offs, what can we do? Well, good for us. Microsoft provided a checklist like we have when we go for shopping, like we have when we go for traveling, checklist that makes the job a lot easy. Don't you think so? So let's see the checklist. All right, seems like a huge one, but just be with me, you will understand what to check. Well, again, it depends the kind of organization you're working with. It depends how they operate, but they gotta have regularly train the team or financial accountability and invest in automation. This is cultivate financial responsibility. If they have something like that, if they have this thing in place where they are running maybe monthly workshop on cloud cost management or using Azure automation to streamline workflows or ensuring team efficiency and cost consciousness. If they are doing such things, if you are planning to do such things, if they have those things in place, you gotta check that box. You can check that box. They are cultivating their people. They are cultivating the financial responsibilities on to the team, on to the resources who are directly connected to the cloud. You gotta develop a comprehensive cost model. So what it is, it's simply a cost model. Create a cost model that estimate all potential expenses. How can we do that? Well, it is like forecasting the cost for the usage of your resources, your server usage, data storage, or customer support with a contingency budget for unexpected spikes during sales events. It's not like whatever money you have, you just spend that, but you also have to plan for unexpected spikes or unexpected incidents or resources. So comprehensive cost model, not just like close your eyes, thought a number, that's what it is. No, you have the data. in cloud, in cost management that provided. That is one of the service of Azure. You have a wonderful graphics, you have all the filters that you need, and you can easily find out the forecasting. So you got to have something in place, a cost model. You should have the if you have something like that, you can check that box. To go further, you got to have the cost data review. How can you review? Once you have the cost model in place, only then you can review, right? Like monitor daily cost and set automated alerts for budget and thresholds. This falls under cost model, but you have the cost model, only then you can review. Under cost management, you have created the budget for different resource group, resources, subscription, and then place the alerts that people are aware it's going to end. The 10% is left or 5% is left accordingly as per the plan. And you should have the guardrails in place, like the limits, implement policies to control spending. Like once the 90% is spent of the budget, nobody can create any more resource because the 10% is left is for the usage of those resource, things like that. Maybe you can take an example of an healthcare data analysis firm, set some policies to restrict creation of high cost resources, ensuring projects stay in the budget. If you have something, those guardrails, check that box. Azure policies, check that box. Now, secure best rates for providers from providers. So what you got to do? You got to regularly review and choose cost-effective rates for resources and licenses. If you have those things in place, check that box. Or let's take an example. Let's suppose there is some organization which regularly compares Azure pricing tiers and opts for the most economical ones without compromising on the requirement of that workload or features. You need to keep on stay with all the updates, so you are aware. Then we have align usage with billing increments. So what we gotta do here, we gotta adjust service usage to fit billing cycle. Hmm, make sense? If not, let me take an example. Let's suppose there is an organization which schedules resource intensive tasks during off peak hours to align with the lower billing rates. You could also think of a spot instances here, right? Things that you can utilize with the lower cost. Those things you could use for those kind of services. So align usage with billing increments. You gotta adjust your service usage to fit billing cycles. I hope that makes sense now. If you have something like that in place, check that box. If not, don't check that box. Keep going with the checklist. What all is left, you can think, you can come up with a plan. So, what's the next point? Optimize component cost. How? By regularly assessing and optimizing or remove underutilized components. So, you can optimize component cost. You can take an example of a digital marketing agency decommissions legacy analytics tool in favor of integrated Azure services, reducing redundant cost, or maybe the services which are utilized for XYZ reasons. The reason is not there anymore, but the services still are. Right? So you got to optimize environment cost. If you have component cost up in place, something in place for that, check that box. Go with the environment cost, prioritize the spending based on environment like dev, non-prod, prod. You got to plan your environment cost accordingly. If you have something in place, check that box. Go with next one, which is you got to align flow cost with priorities. It's like match the cost of each process or flow with its importance. If you have, let's connect it with the previous example. If you have a prod environment, you're gonna have more cost. If but the similar non-prod and dev environment may have a lower cost, right? They have the similar environment, but the SKUs of the virtual machine could be different. One could use the premium storage, one could use the standard one. Now, data cost optimization. Now, we ultimately everything is data, right? So if you do not, if you have the data which is not frequently used by the people, you could have something in place which can move that data into the cold storage or archival. If you have something in place, you're still saving there, so check that box. You can optimize your code as well. You can refine code to use fewer resources without compromising the functionality. Once you achieve that, only then you start going and spinning up the other resources, because you know your code is going to use minimum resources. Now, optimizing scaling cost, evaluate and adjust scaling strategies for cost efficiency. We can understand this with the simple auto scaling example, right? Now, there is personnel time optimization. You align team efforts with high priority tasks for efficient time use. A cloud consulting firm, that's an example, focuses its engineers on client facing project development rather than routine maintenance outsourced to a managed service provider. Why? Because it's directly connected to the ROI. Consolidated resources, we got to merge resources and responsibilities where possible for efficiency. We can understand this by this example of the consolidating several smaller databases into one larger, more efficient, maybe utilizing the elastic pool, things like that. So these are the different ways for the cost, not the ways, but the checklist. Ways are ways are as per these trade-offs and the design principles and what it is. But these checklists will help you understand whether you have think about all those points which can directly impact your cost. With this, I think we are good to end this video, and I hope it was relevant, it was informational, and I would also request you could see the MS Learn, which is now updated with uh, new, well architected framework. Not exactly new, but there are new features added. They have aligned all the design principles with the checklist and the recommendation. Earlier it wasn't like that, so it is good. It's a good read. Specifically, or once you go through this video, most of the content is from there, but if you go through this video and afterward you read it, it will make more sense. Well, thank you for watching, and you have a wonderful day. Take care.